Alaskan wind cutting through the night like a blade forged in ice, temperatures plunging to 50 below zero, where exposed skin freezes in minutes, and the very air seems to shatter with each breath. In a remote valley near Fairbanks, where the aurora dances mockingly overhead, one man stood alone against the merciless grip of winter. His name was Elias Thorne, a rugged transplant from the lower 48, who dared to challenge a frozen wilderness with an idea that his neighbors called madness. They laughed at his strange, arched metal shell wrapping around a simple log cabin, dubbing it the Tin-Can Folly. But as the blizzards raged and the cold claimed its toll, that folly would become a beacon of survival, keeping his home 35 degrees warmer than any other dwelling in the valley. This is the story of how Elias built his Quonset-Wrapped cabin, faced the doubts and dangers, and emerged not just alive, but thriving in the heart of Alaska's deadliest season. Elias wasn't always a man of the North. Born in the mild hills of Oregon, he grew up dreaming of vast, untamed spaces where a person could carve out a life on their own terms. By his mid-30s, after a string of unfulfilling jobs in the city, he sold everything he owned and headed to Alaska. He arrived in the summer of 2024, staking a claim on 40 acres of forested land in the Tanana Valley, about 30 miles from the nearest town. The property was raw, dense spruce trees, a winding creek that froze solid come November, and soil that turned to permafrost beneath the surface. Elias had read every book on homesteading he could find, from Jack London's tales to modern survival guides, but nothing prepared him for the reality of building a home in a place where winter wasn't just a season. It was a predator. His plan was unconventional from the start. Instead of erecting a traditional log cabin like everyone else, Elias envisioned something more resilient. He'd researched Quonset huts, those semi-cylindrical steel structures born from World War II military needs, known for their durability and ease of assembly. But Elias took a step further. He would build a modest log cabin at the core and wrap it entirely in a Quonset shell, creating a double-layered fortress against the elements. The inner cabin would provide insulation and livability, while the outer Quonset would act as a windbreak, snow shield, and thermal barrier. He calculated that the air pocket between the two layers, combined with proper ventilation and heating, could trap heat far better than a single structure. Neighbors, mostly grizzled veterans of Alaskan winters, shook their heads when he explained it over coffee at the local trading post. "You're wasting your time and money, boy," Old Man Harlan grumbled, his beard flecked with frost even in August. "Quonsets are for storage, not living. It'll turn into an icebox, mark my words." Elias just smiled and nodded, but inside, a seed of doubt took root. What if they were right? Construction began in late summer, as the days shortened and the first hints of autumn chill whispered through the trees. Elias worked alone at first, felling spruce log with chainsaw that roared against the quiet wilderness. His hands blistered and calloused as he notched and stacked them into a compact 20 by 20-foot cabin, sealing the gaps with moss and chinking made from local clay. The interior was simple: a sleeping loft, a kitchen area with stove, and shelves for supplies. He insulated the walls with foam board scavenged from a construction site in Fairbanks, topping it with a sturdy roof of corrugated metal. But the real challenge was the Quonset wrapper. He ordered the kit from a supplier in Anchorage, galvanized steel panels that curved like half a barrel, designed to bolt together into an arch spanning 30 feet wide and 25 long. When the truck delivered it, bumping along the rutted trail to his property, Elias felt a surge of excitement mixed with trepidation. Assembling it would be like piecing together a giant puzzle in the fading light of fall. The neighbors came by sporadically, more out of curiosity than help. There was Sarah, the no-nonsense widow who ran a small farm down the valley, her face weathered from decades of harsh suns and harsher winds. "Looks like a damn airplane hangar," she snorted, watching Elias bolt the first panels into place. Then there was young Tom, a trapper in his 20s, who offered a hand but couldn't hide his skepticism. Why not just build thicker walls? This metal's going to conduct the cold right in. Elias explained his theory patiently. The Quonset would deflect wind and snow, creating a microclimate around the inner cabin, and the air gap would act like a thermos, holding in heat from the stove. He planned to skirt the base with plywood and fill it with gravel for stability, then add vents to prevent condensation. But as the structure took shape, arching over the log cabin like a protective dome, the ridicule grew. Whispers of the trading post turned to outright jokes. Elias is building a spaceship to escape the winter. Even Elias wavered during long nights, lying in his tent as mosquitoes buzzed and bears rustled in the underbrush. Had he bitten off more than he could chew? By October, as the first snowflakes dusted the ground, the Quonset was up. Elias sealed the ends with wooden walls, installed a door that swung into the airlock-like space between the shell and the cabin, and stocked the interior with firewood. Split birch and spruce stacked floor to ceiling. He added a small greenhouse extension on the south side, using translucent panels to capture what little winter sun there was. Inside the cabin proper, he hung heavy curtains over the windows and laid rugs on the floor for extra insulation. The total cost came in under $10,000, far less than a fancy modular home, but Elias knew the true test was coming. Temperatures were already dipping into the teens at night, and the valley's residents were battening down. Harlan invited him over for a beer one evening. His own cabin a stout log affair with a massive stone chimney. Last chance to bail, son. Winter here ain't forgiving. Elias declined politely, but as he trudged back to the gathering dusk, the weight of isolation settled on him like the oncoming snow. November brought the first real storms. Winds howled down from the Brooks Range, whipping snow into horizontal sheets that stung like needles. Elias hunkered down in his new home, feeding the wood stove steadily. Outside, the mercury plummeted to -20, then -30. He monitored thermometers obsessively, one inside the cabin, one in the air gap, and one exposed to the elements. To his relief, the system worked as planned. The Quonset shell broke the wind, preventing drafts from seeping through the logs. Snow piled against the curved sides would slid off easily, avoiding the crushing weight that could bury flat roofs. Inside, the cabin hovered around 60 degrees with minimal fuel, while the air gap stayed at a balmy 35 degrees warmer than the howling void beyond. Elias felt a quiet triumph, cooking stew on the stove and reading by lantern light as the storm raged. But the neighbor's doubts lingered in his mind, amplified by the isolation. What if a bigger storm hit? What if the metal buckled or the stove failed? As December deepened, the cold intensified. Days shortened to mere hours of twilight. The sun a faint glow on the horizon. Temperatures routinely hit -40, with wind chills pushing it to -60. Elias's routine became a ritual of survival, chopping wood in the brief daylight, melting snow for water, checking traps for rabbits or ptarmigan to supplement his stores of canned goods and dried meat. The Quonset's design shone in these conditions. The curved shape shed snow effortlessly, and the air pocket trapped rising heat from the chimney, which Elias had routed through the gap before venting outside. This created a passive heating loop, warming the shell and reducing heat loss from the cabin walls. He slept soundly in his loft, the crackle of the fire a comforting lullaby against the eerie silence of the frozen world. But not everyone fared so well. Word trickled in via shortwave radio. Harlan's chimney had cracked from the cold, forcing him to burn extra with just to stay above freezing. Sarah's well pump froze solid, leaving her hauling water from the creek in sub-zero temps. Tom, the young trapper, confessed over a static-filled call that his cabin dipped to 20 degrees inside during gusts, chilling him to the bone despite layers of wool. Elias offered help, but pride kept him at bay. Your tin can won't save you when the real cold comes. Harlan barked one day when Elias snowshoed over with fresh bread. The older man looked haggard, his face pinched from the relentless chill. Elias bit his tongue, but the tension built like the snowdrifts piling higher each day. The turning point came in late January, during what locals would later call the blizzard of 25. It started innocuously, a light snow under leaden skies, but soon escalated into a wide-out fury. Winds gusted to 60 miles per hour, driving temperatures to -50 with chills approaching -80. Visibility dropped to zero. The world became a swirling vortex of ice and darkness. Elias barricaded himself inside, stoking the stove and monitoring his supplies. Outside, the Quonset groaned under the assault but held firm, its arched form distributing the force like a natural igloo. Snow buried the lower half, but the design prevented collapse, and the air gap insulated against the penetrating cold. Inside the cabin, the temperature never dropped below 55 degrees, even as Elias conserved wood. He brewed coffee, mended gear, and listened to the storm's roar, feeling oddly secure in his metallic cocoon. Meanwhile, the valley suffered. Harlan's roof sagged under the weight, forcing him to venture out in the gale to shovel, risking frostbite. His cabin's interior plummeted to 20 degrees, the cold seeping through every crack despite his best efforts. Sarah's greenhouse shattered, and she spent hours patching leaks as wind toward her home. Tom, caught on a trap line, barely made it back, his fingers blackened from exposure. Radios crackled with desperate calls. Frozen pipes bursting, generators failing, livestock perishing in barns. Elias tuned in, his heart aching. On the third day, as the blizzard peaked, he suited up in his heaviest gear. Parka mucklucks, face mask, and snowshoe to check on neighbors. The journey was hellish. Wind blasted him sideways, snow filling his tracks instantly. He reached Harlan's first, finding the old man huddled by a sputtering fire, shivering uncontrollably. "Can't. Keep it warm," Harlan muttered through chattering teeth. Elias didn't hesitate. He helped bundle Harlan up and guided him back through the storm to his own cabin. The contrast was staggering. Stepping from the deadly cold into the Quonset's air gap felt like entering a different world, the temperature jumping to 20 degrees above the outside. Then, through the inner door, into the cabin's welcoming 60-degree haven. Harlan's eyes widened as warmth enveloped him, the stove's glow casting flickering shadows on the log walls. "How? How is this possible?" he whispered, peeling off frozen gloves. Elias explained again, the double layer, the thermal trap, the efficient design. Soon, Sarah and Tom arrived, drawn by Elias's radio offer shelter. They crammed into the small space, sharing hot soup and stories as the blizzard howled impotently outside. For 2 more days, they waited out the storm. The Quonset-Wrapped cabin became a lifeline, its interior staying consistently 35 degrees warmer than the neighbors' homes had been before the evacuation. Harlan's place, they later learned, had cooled to a deadly 10 degrees inside. Without intervention, hypothermia would have set in. As the winds finally died and the skies cleared to a brilliant blue, the group emerged a transformed landscape, drifts 10 feet high, trees bowed under ice. But Elias's structure stood unscathed, snow cascading off its curves like water from a duck's back. In the weeks that followed, the valley thawed in more ways than one. Neighbors helped Elias expand his setup, adding solar panels and a better water system. Harlan, ever the gruff elder, clapped him on the back one day at the trading post. "Thought you were stupid, boy. Turns out we were the fools." Sarah baked him pies, and Tom shared trapping tips. Elias's Quonset-Wrapped cabin became legendary, a testament to innovation in the face of nature's wrath. He lived there through many more winters, each one reinforcing the lesson. In Alaska's brutal embrace, survival isn't about fighting the cold. It's about outsmarting it. As spring crept in with dripping icicles and the first calls of returning birds, Elias reflected on his journey. The doubts, the struggles, the triumphant warmth amid the freeze. It all wove into the fabric of his new life. And in the quiet moments, as he watched the aurora ripple across the sky, he knew he'd found not just a shelter, but a home.